Hello! Before we begin, if you want to catch up on the lore preceding the events of this video, I highly suggest you watch the Lumineth War video, as well as the Federation Pirate War video I made previously. Now, with that preamble out of the way, let's get on to the video. After Samus brought an end to the Lumineth War and left the Lumineth free to reclaim their war-ravaged world, the Galactic Federation would soon arrive on the planet, making contact with the insectoid race and finally discovering the existence of the Phazon, taking a few samples back with them. However, they would miss the vast majority of it, and soon the space pirates of the battleship Colossus would arrive on Aether to collect the rest of the vast amounts of Phazon, and would do so successfully. But in their haste, they would unintentionally collect the Phazon spores that remained of Dark Samus, who, with a fresh supply of Phazon, would drink from the space pirates' Phazon reserves to regain her power, abandoning her old organic look and taking a more technological appearance. Instead of simply dispatching the pirates, she killed a third of the crew before using her control of the Phazon to influence the minds of the rest. Bending eventually all the pirates to her will, she told them of her plans, of power, riches, and the conquest of the stars. The pirates there and then swore fealty to Dark Samus, and a cult formed around the Dark Hunter. And when Dark Samus left the Colossus, those pirates who doubted their new master would be summarily shot by the other so-called disciples. Dark Samus, for her part, had a dream of galaxy-wide domination. To do that, she needed to get several pieces in place. The first thing she did whilst flying through the cold depths of space was discover the source of all Phazon, the living planet known as Phase. With her planned base of operations found, the Dark Huntress would travel back to her pirate followers, or with a Leviathan, a living meteor that has grown on Phase, following her back. Dark Samus ordered the pirates of the Colossus to follow her Leviathan through a wormhole to the planet Phase, and once docked above the planet, Dark Samus set the pirates to work, teaching them how to enhance their battleships using the Phazon, before ordering them to turn her Leviathan into a powerful, fear-inspiring flagship, which they also named the Leviathan, of which the pirates did. They fitted it with cybernetic weapon systems, crew quarters, and command consoles were placed within the beast's skull. Dark Samus had her flagship and had her first disciples, but if she were to truly rule with the Phazon, she would have to dominate Phase itself, but would find a clever solution soon enough: the Aurora units, the backbone of the Federation network. The pirates would manage to bribe the right people and find the battleship Valhalla. It may have been one of the strongest ships in the Federation, a top-of-the-line battleship, but given it was filled with green recruits, it was no match for the Phazon-induced pirates. If the crew of the GFS Valhalla had expected mercy, well, they received none of it. On Dark Samus' orders, the crew was jettisoned into the cold blackness of space, and the pirates claimed their prize with the onboard Aurora Unit 313, before leaving the husk of the Valhalla to set adrift in space. A warning to all those Federation dogs. In planting the unit into Phase, Dark Samus learned of Phase's secrets and can now control the planet to her will, including its Leviathan seeds. To her pirate followers, Dark Samus rewarded them by sending the first of her many blessings to their homeworld. Leviathan quickly reached planet Earth, and despite fierce pirate resistance attempting to stop the living meteor, it was all for naught, as it still impacted the planet, and in one swift move, Dark Samus had conquered the space pirates as they succumbed to Phazon corruption. She even brought the mighty Meta Ridley under her heel, the space dragon still angry and reeling after its defeat on Talon 4 at the hand of Samus. With full control of the space pirates, Dark Samus sent 3 more Leviathan seeds to 3 new worlds as a part of her strategy to target key Federation infrastructure. The first of these being the Spy Station and Research Station at Skytown Elysia, the second being the fuel gel-rich world of Bryo, and last but not least, the naval yard world of Norian. Norian, being the most well-defended of the targets, would be overseen directly by Dark Samus and her right-hand man, Ridley. Finally, she transmitted a computerized plague, the Corruption Plague, and spread it to the other Aurora units in the local sector in an attempt to freeze Federation response times to her invasion. Now was the time for war. Dark Samus' 3-way assault was 2 parts successful. The Leviathan headed for Bryo made impact, and the pirates were able to destroy the Federation forces planet-side. On Elysia, the Leviathan struck the planet, but missed Skytown, but is still able to be captured by the pirates nonetheless. However, Norian, as expected, was met by fierce resistance by entrenched Federation forces, reinforced by 4 top-of-the-line space hunters, including Samus herself. Samus Aran having to take down a deadly and hulking Berserker Lord that managed to somehow breach the GFS Olympus before making her way down planetside. As the space battle raged on, the ground battle was no less heated, as Samus and the other 4 hunters had to race to reactivate the generators that would trigger Norian's orbital cannons. It was their only hope to stop the encroaching Leviathans. Along the way, Samus was jumped by her old nemesis Metroid, still wounded slightly from their battle on Talon 4. The two faced off in a pitched battle while falling down a shaft, but their heated and hatred-filled confrontation would be cut short by the timely arrival of Rundis, who saved Samus from the fall. Eventually, Rundis and Samus, and the other hunters Gore and Gandrada, would make their way to the console that controlled the orbital cannons. However, Dark Samus, who had kept tabs on the battle very closely, arrived on the scene, and the 4 hunters were no match for the Dark Hunter. Thinking the deed was done, she left the hunters to their fates. However, Samus, with the last of her willpower, managed to activate the cannon, which in turn destroyed the Leviathan before she promptly slipped into a coma. Two weeks later, the bounty hunters awoke to quite the shock, as their bodies were naturally producing Phazon, but luckily the Federation had a solution, the PED device. Also known as the Phazon Enhancement Device, one of the Federation's state-of-the-art technologies, allowing them to control the Phazon inside their bodies and use it for combat. With that done, Rundis was sent to Brio to hopefully retake the planet, as it was the Federation's #1 producer of fuel gel. Gore was sent to Elysia to retake the vital research facilities the Federation had invested in and liberate the Elysians. And finally, Gandrada was sent to the pirate homeworld, likely to do some sort of recon work. However, before long, all 3 hunters would cease contact with the Federation, having succumbed to the Phazon corruption that was being generated in their bodies, and just like the pirates, would become absolutely loyal to Dark Samus and her cause, and join her cult, all of them having the newfound cause of protecting the Leviathan seeds, becoming commanders in Dark Samus' armies. 3 weeks later, Samus Aran herself would awaken and be briefed on the situation, and was tasked with finding her lost comrades and destroying the Leviathan seeds. All while Admiral Dane, the ranking officer overseeing the Federation's response to the crisis, and his troops would do all that they could to assist her. The first planet Samus would set foot on would be the fuel gel-rich planet of Brio. Brio was a shattered world, the native Bryonians long ago suffering a civil war, as they could not heed the warning of the Chozo to strike a balance between the technology of the future and their spiritualism of the past. This civil war scoured the world, making it barely habitable. 48% of it would be shrouded in constant night, a frozen wasteland. Another 48% constantly baked by its star. Of the remaining 4% of the planet, it was covered in thorny jungles, cliffs, and ruins. The natives had long ago since devolved into the vicious Reptilicus. Despite this, Samus would traverse the dangerous planet, getting ever closer to the planet's Leviathan seed, before she would be confronted by its local commander, the Phazon-infested pirate Rundis, who in his typical arrogance would kill his own pirate comrades in an effort to fight Samus one-on-one. Rundis, being a Phrygian, had mastery over ice, but even that wasn't enough to allow him to defeat Samus. In the last moments of his life, Rundis would reach out to Samus in confusion as he snapped out of his corruption temporarily, before being impaled by his own ice spike under the control of Dark Samus and killed instantly. Samus would watch as Dark Samus' wraith absorbed him and flew off. With Rundis fallen and the pirate defenses weakened, the Federation would move in to clean up the planet of Brio as Samus moved on to her next target, Elysia. 1,500 years prior to the events of the Phazon Crisis, the Chozo settled on the gas giant planet of Elysia and created Skytown, anchored by a massive observatory they would use to send satellites and peer into the great darkness of space. However, the cost of constantly repairing the floating city became too much of a burden, and as such, the Chozo invented the Elysian race to keep Skytown running. 400 years later, the very same Chozo abandoned Skytown but gave the Elysians their freedom before leaving for Talon 4. At the time of the modern day, the mechanical race and the Federation signed the Treaty of Elysia. In exchange for providing the Elysians with much needed resources, the Federation could use Skytown as they saw fit. The atmosphere was too harsh for humans and most species, so they instead installed Aurora Unit 217 on the station to run operations. Now, however, Elysia was under the control of the space pirates and nominally protected by Commander Gore, who, along with his pirate comrades, seemed confident they could stop the approaching Samus. For her part, Samus was focused primarily on getting the Aurora Unit free from Phazon control and back online. However, even though she would move to give it the much-needed vaccine, Gore would appear out the blue and blast apart the circuitry, which, while it was cured, in effect it cut the unit off from the rest of Skytown. The Aurora unit tasked Samus with gaining Gore's plasma cannon in order to fix the damage, but that would mean confronting the crazed pirate commander, former bounty hunter. Samus would eventually find Gore damaging her ship before the battle would begin. It was a long-fought three-phase battle, but upon defeating Gore, Samus would try and fire at Dark Samus' Wraith to spare Gore's life, but it was no use. Gore had outlived its usefulness and was killed. Samus would move on to the Elysian Seed and destroy the mechanical menace known as Helios before destroying the core, but not before her own corruption began to ravage her body as it managed to reach 50% corruption. This left only the pirate homeworld, Dark Samus' last great bastion. Despite the loss of Elysia and Brio, the cult of Dark Samus was as strong as ever. The disciples were kept in line by Gandrada, also called Mistress Gandrada by the pirates, as she would disguise herself among their rank and harshly discipline any who showed any form of weakness. When Samus arrived on the homeworld, Samus would receive a transmission from a nearby Federation Marine designated NZG-41. Samus reached the Marine, and together the two would activate an elevator and ride their way up. However, upon reaching the proving grounds on the top floor and hoping to catch Samus lacking, the Marine began firing on Samus, who avoided it just in the nick of time. The so-called Federation Marine revealed itself to be none other than a corrupted Gandrada, and the two would battle amidst the acid rain-swept world. Gandrada was a shapeshifter, and she used it to the best she could, even transforming into Samus herself to try to gain an advantage late into the fight, but ultimately, she was outmatched and overpowered. Even among the fellow hunters, Gandrada died an agonizing death as she shifted between her multiple forms, even ending up as a copy of the PED suit Samus and reaching out to her dear friend. But Samus, for her part, knowing that she could do nothing to save her friend, could only look away as Dark Samus claimed another victim. Samus would run rampant on the pirate homeworld after that, and even managed to fly to the wreck of the GFS Valhalla, the same GFS Valhalla that the pirates had raided many months earlier to claim the Aurora unit. Samus did this to find the codes necessary for the Federation to hijack control of Dark Samus' beloved flagship, the Leviathan battleship. Slowly making her way toward the Leviathan Seed, which she would access with her gunship, instead she would encounter the last seed and last line of defense, the Phazon-infested Omega Ridley. But even his new form was no match for Samus. However, the influx of Phazon rose her corruption to 75%, and now she was in critical condition of becoming corrupted. But despite that, she still did her duty, destroying the Phazon core, and now it was time to take the fight to Dark Samus herself. With all the territory Dark Samus had gained early into the crisis now back firmly in Federation hands, Admiral Dane organized his fleet, and with the Leviathan battleship opening a wormhole and leading the way to Phase, the Federation armada would follow suit, but soon be attacked by Dark Samus' sizable but final pirate fleet that was prepared to die in this final stand in defense of Phase. While the battle raged on, Samus would slip past them and touch down on Phase itself. The moment she stepped foot planet-side, she becomes so corrupted even her own gunship couldn't recognize her as Samus Aran anymore. It was do or die time. Still, Samus would explore the surface of Phase before slowly delving into its depths. The entire planet was home to all Phazon and was made entirely out of the substance. It was even home to species even Samus' scan visor couldn't identify, and is what Dark Samus described as her homeworld. Eventually, after making it through the murky depths of Phase, Samus would confront Dark Samus in her personal sanctum. The two would engage one final time in perhaps the most important battle in galactic history, a battle to decide the fate of everything. Samus seemed to get the upper hand, and in her desperation, Dark Samus would fuse with the Aurora unit that she had stolen from the GFS Valhalla. And once again, the two would engage in a grueling two-stage battle. But finally, Samus would deal the finishing blow. The Aurora unit would reject Dark Samus, who would suffer in her final moments, just as she had caused all those hunters to suffer. The Aurora unit had been fused with Phase itself, and so its destruction led to a chain reaction that saw the entirety of Phase self-destruct along with it. And with its death, and Dark Samus' death, all Phazon in existence was wiped out. After the battle, Samus would travel to the planet of Elysius, where she fought Gore and mourned silently for the deaths of her fellow space hunters. As she stared into the beautiful Elysian sky, peace had, at least for the moment, been brought to space, and the legacy of the Metroid Prime and of Dark Samus had ended. But the machinations of a certain spiteful bounty hunter had just begun.